Good morning and welcome to the Paulding County Board of Commissioners March 3rd, 2015 work session. We're about a week late. We had a little ice and snow, and my hat's off to every department in our county who did a fabulous job. We got calls on the weather, I think, better than we did last year, and allowed us a little warning time to get folks out of here, and then delay a little bit getting them in. And we'll have to hear from you folks, but I think our DOT did an excellent job in keeping the roads clear, and we have people manned in vehicles to bring in nurses and all sorts of stuff. So great job, Water Department, great job, DOT, everybody. So thank you very much for being here. I'll call this meeting to order and welcome all our invited guests and elected officials. I see High Sheriff Gary Gulledge, thank you for being here. Mayor Doris Debbie. Am I missing any other elected officials in the room? Thank you all for being here. I'll remind you to turn off all Nextel's cell phones and pagers, as it does interrupt our production. Will Marshall bring forth citizen wishing to speak? No one signed up today. Thank you very much. For our invocation and pledge, we have Pastor Cord Franklin with Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church. Would you stand with me if you're able?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain that's falling outside, for we know that through the rain, you allow things to grow. Lord, we thank you that we live in a country where we as citizens can come before our elected officials, sit down and discuss matters of importance that impact our county. Lord, we pray right now that you would bless our commissioners, that you would endow them with the wisdom of Solomon, and Lord, that you would also bless all of us with the patience of Job. Lord, bless all of our elected officials of Paulding County. Lord, bless all of our departments of Paulding County. Lord, we ask a special blessing of protection upon all of our first responders, our sheriff's department, our police departments, our marshals, our firemen, even our ambulance drivers. Lord, for they always rush in when the rest of us are running out. Lord, we pray right now that as we go throughout this agenda, that we discuss these matters, Lord, in a way that is pleasing to you. And if there are issues, Heavenly Father, that we don't agree upon, let us discuss them, Heavenly Father, without becoming disagreeable with one another. Lord, we just ask a special blessing upon all of our veterans, and those that have served and those that are yet serving today. Lord, we thank you for our soldiers that stand so gallantly on the battlefield, Heavenly Father, that they put their lives on the line that we can come here today, Lord, in a country that is free. And Lord, that when it's all said and done, that when this meeting is over, we pray that our faith in you would sustain us, that our hope in you would encourage us, and that our love for you will unite us as we all seek a better Paulding County for all the citizens therein. It's through your Son, Jesus Christ, we do pray and ask all. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Let us pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, that was beautiful. Appreciate it. Minutes, the February 12th, 2015 work session minutes and the February 12th, 2015 board meeting minutes are available for your review. No announcements or invited guests or bid awards. Reports from committees and departments. We have County Engineer Bruce Coyle. Bruce, if you'll come and give us updates. We got a lot going on in Paulding.
Yes, sir. In addition to, a bunch of small projects, roof repairs, carpeting, paint, ADA compliance stuff, we have some major projects, and I'm just here to report the major projects. Currently under construction is New Georgia Fire Station. The fire department calls it number 14 off of Mulberry Rock. It's supposed to wrap up shortly. Weather's got us having issues getting the driveway up, but that should finish up shortly. In addition to that, what's also under construction is the building at the Sheriff Training Center. It's also in a weather-related delay, but it ought to be coming out of the ground. Our estimate is April with the slab. Two things are out for bid for construction. One thing is the Georgia State Patrol facility at the old water building off of Bill Carew. We opened bids on the 16th on that building. It has some site work. It has a garage or a covered area, and it has some modifications in the building. The other bid item is the driver services building behind the courthouse, and that also opens on the 16th. I'll be bringing those two to y'all on the second meeting in March for approval of the contract. And then the other major building we're looking at is the new water system building off of Macklin. We are doing that under a CMAR, and those proposals are due to us on the 5th this week. And that's all I have to report, and be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
And Bruce, thank you for your time coming.
Anytime.
Crow and I went to see Bruce the other day, and just with all the changes that have been going on, we just wanted to check in, and Bruce assured us he had things under control, and I appreciate your work. I appreciate all the employees' work and everything that they do. We just continue to move forward and make Paulding a great place to live. So thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Now we have a discussion on House Bill 170. I hope you got some updates this morning that sent out. Inez with ACCG sends those out to us, and then Pat tries to get it resent out to us. Scott, you want to come and give us a little bit about how you see this affecting Paulding financially?
Certainly. I just read the new bill this morning, but I did look at the previous version in pretty good detail last week, and I sent out some numbers on the impacts to the local governments. The net change to local governments is a positive change as far as revenue flowing from the state sales tax back to us, and as far as the lost impact, it's a net increase for Paulding County. The legislature or the committee that wrote this bill tried to minimize the impacts to the locals. At the same time, they wanted to get the state out of the business of having a state sales tax on fuel and convert it to an excise tax. That creates a level funding stream for transportation going forward, and then it would allow indexing to compensate for the increase in construction costs we've seen. What we have, the situation is our fleet of cars is twice as efficient as it used to be, and the cost of construction is at least 4 times what it used to be. And at the same time, fuel taxes are decreasing in relation to the vehicle miles traveled. So the legislature is trying to address the decreasing funding stream to get it on a trajectory, I'd say, that aligns with the increase in car miles, more cars on the road, and that kind of thing. At the same time, they didn't want to hurt the local governments, so they've tweaked the bill several times at the urging of the local government. Counties and cities have been very involved in drafting the bill. And I don't know that is the intent to create any kind of a windfall, but there is a windfall for Paulding County. The latest tweaks would bring in about $2 million a year for paving. We normally get 1.3 per year for paving contracts, and the new formula would bring us about $2 million. So that would be an increase. Also, because of the lost adjustments, we benefit from that formula a little bit more than counties that rely more on fuel tax than we do. I guess a higher percentage, Tabitha may want to comment, a higher percentage of our funds that we run the government on come from the non-fuel side of purchases. And when they changed the formula, it benefited counties that had more on the non-fuel side. So that's where we're seeing an increase. The city of Dallas and the city of Hiram would also see an increase. It doesn't change the world as far as what we can do, but it doesn't hurt us. And it also puts the state's transportation funding on a long-term, I'd say just a sustainable funding level. It's not a funding level that's going to bring us new highways all through the county or anything like that. That number was, instead of trying to raise, I think upwards of $1 billion, they were looking at needing $5 or $6 billion more a year to really address congestion. But we have been in a situation where to get anything built, you have to rob Peter to pay Paul. And we've been Peter. We've been the one that seems like we're on the losing end. When you compare the congestion in Paulding County to some of our neighbors to the east, they just have higher congestion, and therefore they have higher scores when they warrant the need for their projects. And I think as long as the transportation funding pie gets smaller and smaller, we're going to be on the losing end of that argument. We're not going to be able to show that we have the congestion. And much of our congestion is actually experienced in the neighboring counties we travel through for our some 70% that do leave the county for a job. So that's a very difficult issue they're having to wrestle with. Nobody wants to raise revenue or put more expense on the consumers. But as far as a tax, it is designed to be more of a user fee. You pay for what you use and what space you use on the road and what wear and tear you put on the road with this system. And from that sense, it's looked at as more of a fair way to raise revenue versus what they were looking at a few years ago with the T-SPLOST, a statewide sales tax, where everybody, whether they drove a car or not, would have to be paying for transportation. So it is, you will see an increase. We calculated, I think, 5 to 7 cents a gallon increase when they convert it, if they're able to get this approved. And I guess it's not such a bad thing when gas is low, but when you're paying $3 or $4 a gallon, it's going to be a tough thing to handle. But I think it's worth stating that the program is pretty lean now. I think they're really doing the bare minimum. You see a lot of roads starting to fall apart on the state system nowadays. You're seeing a lot more potholes and a lot of things you didn't see in Georgia in the 90s and even a decade ago. We had the best maintained roads in Georgia for many, many years, and now we're slipping to, I don't know, I know it's not 1, 2, or 3 anymore. It's probably down close to 10, if not worse.
Explain, the term LMIG is passed around. It's a term you guys use a lot. You explain it?
Yes, the local maintenance improvement grant is what they used to call the old PR projects, post-road projects, where they took some of the fuel tax and brought it back to the locals for special projects. And it's evolved over the years, but it is basically now a pure grant program where they actually send you the check even before you spend the money. So there's very little red tape. There's almost zero red tape. We just have some assurances that we have to follow and an audit system that we have to adhere to. And we get to spend the money on the roads how we want to. So it's very fluid, flexible, and we've been putting it into our big paving contracts every year. We could use it on things like bridges, but our paving needs are greater and are much greater than the money we receive, so it's no problem just to spend it in the easiest way to account for it. And that's what we've been doing. It's a very good program now. It's so few strings attached. It's great, really, to get that kind of money coming to us. Paulding County is able to meet their inspection requirements and their audit requirements, so it works out great.
On the LMIG, Scott, over here, we have control, as you just said. On the overall excise tax collected, is that going to go to Georgia DOT for prioritization around the state, or do we have control of that money also?
We don't. I mean, we pay at the pump, and that money goes to the state. Pure and simple. Roads and bridges is where your fuel taxes go, and I think that's a constitutional requirement. We then, if we want to spend state money or federal money, we have to petition to spend that money and get projects approved. And we have done that over and over again. East Hiram Parkway, very large project we did with federal and state participation. For the most part, they covered almost the entire cost. Intersection projects, we've had dozens of intersection projects, not dozens of projects. Some of them are major intersections, like the New Hope intersection we did a few years ago down at 61 in Mulberry Rock, due west at 92, and Crossroads back in, I guess, 2005. We did a lot of good projects that we can petition to get money for. And then, as you probably know, we are working on our comprehensive transportation plan right now, doing the final document and bringing that to you this month. That is our roadmap and our way of showing them that we have needs in Paulding County, and then we're able to get federal funds obligated to roads throughout Paulding County, and that includes State Route 61, State Route 92, Macklin Road, and even some of the what's not on the state system. The off system is our local road system, like Cedar Crest and Dabbs Bridge Road. We have money allocated to those projects now, and so long as we follow the process, we get to manage them and keep our hands on them like we did on East Hiram Parkway. But so long as that transportation pie is shrinking, those projects are going to be few and far between in the future. And so I think by the state maybe correcting itself and getting in a position to take care of its maintenance first, they will not have to take from capacity projects and other needed capital projects in order to pave. And there will not have to be as much fighting over the diminishing resource of the transportation funding. So it becomes a very, very political effort when there's so little money to go around. And I'd like to get into more of a, I'd like to see us getting into more of a merit-based selection process. And we have done the homework with our transportation plan and our studies to show we have merit for our projects. But still, when you have a road carrying 60, 70, 80,000 cars a day, and you want money for a road that's only carrying 18 or 20, even though it's very congested for Paulding County, it doesn't stack up well. But I think they do have an obligation, they see an obligation to spread the money around, and there are requirements to balance the funding by congressional district. They are not balanced by county, however, and that's where as long as that transportation funding is declining, we're going to have more and more difficulty getting money allocated to Paulding County.
As the former utilities engineer for Georgia DOT, won't you have a lot of influence?
I have a lot of contacts and friends and coworkers from the past, and I appreciate those relationships, so I know how to find out how to get things done. I wouldn't say I can influence them at all. There's hundreds of counties and nearly 1,000 cities that all need things, and we all have good reasons for our projects, and we all can make a good case for them. Certainly, I think knowing them does help, though.
You had mentioned to me that this is the first time they've been able to tackle this since 96?
93 was the last time they changed the funding mechanism. I think it was. Maybe 93? Thereabout. Yeah, I think you're right. And so if you look at construction prices in the 90s versus what they are now, they are higher. I mean, when the cost of oil goes up, the cost of construction goes up. To run the equipment, to make the asphalt and all that, it goes all the way across the board. When we did Highway 278 out here in 1988 through 1993, those contracts were running at less than $2 million a mile. And now the typical estimate for a 4-lane highway is pushing $10 or $11 million a mile. So the cost is a lot more than it used to be. The regulations are a lot more stringent than they used to be. You spend a lot more money on protecting the environment and preventing runoff of erosion and things like that. There's a lot more hurdles with studies, and there's a lot more administration costs up front. particularly when you're working with the federal dollars on that side. So the other good thing about, if you want to say there's a good thing about what they're doing with the tax structure, it's state dollars. So you may see a project that's really needed, and you can put pure straight state dollars on it and move it quicker without going through the federal process. But as federal money becomes available, you also have to have a minimum match of state dollars to bring in that federal money. So each federal project could have a minimum match of 20 to 5% of state dollars that have to bring that money in. And so the state's struggling with having money to meet its ability to match the federal dollars to make sure we get our federal taxes spent here, at the same time taking care of the local and state needs. And so it's a constant balancing act, and then they've got bond debt and things like that they have to pay for it. There's very little left over when that's all done to actually build a big project like Highway 92, which we desperately need.
Well, you know, it says here that the state excise tax will go from 7.5 cents to 29.2. If I understand correctly, this helps the large trucking firms. They can write off excise tax better than they can write off sales tax. Is that correct?
I understand that something to that effect is true as far as when they file their income taxes. That creates more of a gap at the border. When you look at buying gas in Alabama or Tennessee versus Georgia, they can write off more if they buy it in a neighboring state. So changing it from a sales tax to an excise tax, I believe, makes it, I think Mayor Debbie was looking at that issue as well, and she might be able to confirm that, but it does, there's competitive issues.
I believe there'll be a fee on electric, propane, or compressed natural gas, $200 for consumer and $300 for a commercial. I think because they're not purchasing gasoline and there's no tax to pay, they use the roads and there's no fee to collect from them. So this helps. I think that will, according to this, bring in to the state between 15 and 17 million per year.
Yeah, correct, and you can see that those trends continuing, even though it's a great thing to have alternate vehicles. They don't necessarily pay their fair share for the wear and tear and the capacity they're using on our roads. And as that trend changes, that further accelerates the decline in revenue relative to wear and tear and capacity needs. And unless they get that funding at least level, I mean, we're going to continue on a downward slope as far as the condition of our roads.
Well, I think you've done an excellent job with the money and availability of equipment that you've had, so thank you for the job well done. Any other questions for Scott? And just stay there because we're fixing to talk about another issue.
And like I said, the excise tax, when it's converted, is added to the existing taxes, and the overall net increases, I think, is 5 cents is what I calculated last per gallon, cents per gallon. I think that is a lot, but that is probably a small bite compared to other options they have. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Colonel Davenport that just walked in the room. He'll be running our state patrol post when it's here. Thank you for being here. I got stopped one time, and I've always used my friend David Cooper. And I'll buddy up to the state patrol and just pull me over, and I'll say, hey, how you doing? You know David Cooper? And they go, yeah, I do. I give David's friends tickets, and he gives my friends tickets. So just because you met Colonel Davenport in here doesn't mean that that's going to get you out of a ticket. We also have Mayor Kennesaw, Mark Matthews. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Now we're going to discuss litter issues. Folks, I've never seen our roads look so bad in my entire life. I'm so ashamed. We put up signs. I think the next set of signs we'll try to put up is don't make pollen your ashtray. I guess people don't understand that even harder to get up than big pieces of trash. And I've asked several people to be here today. We've got Scott, if you'll start out since you're there at the podium. There's some programs we have in place, Adopt a Road, and you guys have some stuff on Adopt a Road here. And then I'm going to also ask Tommy Leonard to come up next and Gary Gummins to come up. So
I'd just like to summarize what we're, gotcha. Just summarize what we're doing, what we've been doing. Litter pickup has been a focus throughout Chairman's term here. I know even before he took office, he was talking to us about what we do about reducing litter on our highways. I don't know, it's a cultural thing, it seems to be. There's people that just think it's fun or it's dangerous to throw trash out. I don't understand it at all. I wasn't raised that way, and I hope my kids don't ever do that. That would shock me if I ever found my children doing that. But there are people that go down the road and throw the entire fast food meal out the window, and I'm just behind them, and it's so hard to catch. I've looked and looked and looked, and even when you see a piece of trash fly up from behind a vehicle, it's very difficult to see whether it came out the window or whether they just ran over the trash and blew it up. So it's an extremely difficult thing to catch in the act. Our efforts, other than putting up or raising awareness for citations and things like that, has been put up extra signs. We put up larger, I think 60 of them on our heaviest traveled roads. Don't trash hauling signs, I guess just over a year ago. I don't know that there's any measurable difference as far as the amount of litter, but we're trying to raise the awareness of it. But there has to be a cultural shift in education, I think, if we're going to reduce the amount of litter being thrown out. But in the meantime, we have picked up everything we can with all the forces we can. And I know the Sheriff's Office manages prison details that handles that. And then we pick up behind them. We pick up the litter that they collect. They leave it on the edge of the road, and our crews pick it up. We're taking over, I'd say, 4,000 pounds a week of litter picked up off the road to the landfill every week. And we also do litter pickup in conjunction with our mowing on the state routes. We currently do not do litter pickup with our regular mowing. And that is an issue that you probably want to consider funding in the future. We would be looking at, let's just say, for instance, if you picked up trash on the top 250 miles of county roads and the top counting, if you include the top 100 of state routes, we'd be looking at $100,000 a year to pick up 6 times. And that doesn't sound, to me, it doesn't sound like a huge number to get 250 miles picked up 6 times, but that's only every other month. And you look at the trash that's deposited, even when a few weeks go by, you cut the grass and it looks pretty, and then it's going to lay there for 6 or 8 more weeks till you cut the grass again. So it almost seems like you would even need to do intermittent pickups, particularly on our main gateways and things like that. We maybe want to look at funding more pickup in that area. But we get many, many calls. It's very frustrating for us because you don't have the manpower. And Jana, who's coordinating that for our office, she's trying to coordinate with the Sheriff's Office and handle the highest roads of where we get calls, that kind of thing. But it's just a never-ending thing. You can't pick up trash quick enough. And pretty soon the mowers are coming through and they're cutting some of that up and spreading it around the road. That makes it worse for a little while.
We're talking a little bit about Adopt a Road program. You put this brochure in.
Perfect. That was my next comment. We do have the Adopt a Road program. We updated that policy in 2010 at your urging and made it official. We mimicked the state program. It's exactly like the state program, but the response has been minimal. I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of informal groups picking up garbage on a regular basis, but they don't want to become formal and register with us. We do offer through the program to provide them bags, safety vests, and signs, and we will pick up the trash behind them if it's bagged, if they call us and let us know. And so there are a few things that just, because it is a sort of a sponsored effort by us, that we want to make sure they follow some safe procedures. And I don't know if that's causing people not to be involved, or they just don't want to make a 2-year commitment, which is what we currently require. We also require it to be a group of 4 to 6 people picking up. trash, and that's just safety and number type thinking. If you think we could change that program to make it a little more amenable, that might be something we could look at. One thought I had was, there are a lot of volunteers picking up trash, and if we can provide them the bags, and if they'll at least call us and let us know where they're picking up and where they're setting bags out so they don't get locked up for dumping trash, we could help them in that way, providing bags, so long as we account for the bags being returned or used. That might make it a little easier, where they're just, if they want to do a one-time pickup, or they want to do 8 different roads one time a year. We can be more flexible with the program, and they don't have to call it an official adopted road program. So anything we can do to make it easier for them to participate, but of course we're concerned with people alongside the road just doing it safely. That's a synopsis of the adopted road program. We have only 3 groups participating right now, and that has signed up in the last several years, and that's kind of surprised me. I thought we would see more response on that. The state, by comparison, has adopted a road program, and I understand it has been suspended, and I'm not sure exactly why. They have to provide resources and signage and things like that, and they may not be in a budget situation where they can continue to do that. Their program also recognizes groups with roadside signs, and I think that has become a political football with what groups could adopt certain sections, and some groups were not as welcome as others. And we don't offer the signage, and so that's really not an issue for Paulding County, other than safety signs while they're picking up. So like a decal they put on their rear tailgate or something that says, litter pickup ahead. That's the only kind of signage we provide.
Okay. Any questions of Scott? Tom, if you make your way up. Tommy Leonard has run our recycling program, and we're also looking to put Tommy over our landfill, freeing Bruce up for more administrative duties. And one of the things that concerns me is uncovered loads, and how we either deputize you or have somebody at the landfill that once that comes in like that, I can't believe that people are throwing out this much trash all by themselves. I've got to believe that it's flowing out of some of our garbage vehicles, or out of maybe people picking up garbage that don't use the proper vehicle. So if you'll address that, and you have Keep Paulding Beautiful, that you have groups of folks that y'all meet quarterly. So if you'll talk about that a little bit.
Well, this is my short time to address the litter problem, so I'm going to be brief. Litter bugs just stink. Well, thank you for your time. Just kidding. Right now, I'm as serious as a case of poison ivy in a 100-degree day in South Georgia. Why do people litter? We ask ourselves that. And here's just a list of 9 reasons, but believe me, there are a host more. They're lazy and they can't bother to find a bin. They're not educated about the environmental effects of littering. It's not their area or side of town. It's cool. Can you believe that? And everyone else does it, and they have no sense of pride in our community. No one will see me. It's okay. The area is already littered, so what's the difference? And most people are not even aware that cigarette butts and chewing gum are considered litter. And it's sad to say, but many are just following the lead from their parents. And I don't know about you, but I have a 7-year-old granddaughter that will let me know every time I break any law. And she does it in a respectful manner, because my son and daughter-in-law have taught her what is right and what's wrong. And littering is just wrong. We have been blessed in the United States of America to live in a land with great natural resources and magnificent beauty, yet some people want to treat it like a dump. In the Paulding County Sheriff's Office, Special Operations Unit, under the direct leadership of Sergeant Keith Thomas, they do conduct those daily litter pickups on many of our county roads, weather and safety permitting. But as soon as the roadway is cleaned one day, even the same day, some jerk throws trash out again. And I hope that one day we could find some money in the county's budget to purchase several portable flash cams of good quality so we can record these violations. They are used in other counties. And by the way, yeah, we have a bad problem here, but I've talked to my associates that keep Cobb beautiful and keep Bartow beautiful. They're suffering as well. So it's not just a Paulding County problem. But I also found that as I leave the recycling center, which I have to do several times a day, we're located about 150 feet in front of the transfer station. I get behind the garbage truck, and trash will be blowing out the back of the truck. All the way down Seven Hills and Ivy Village Road, which the SO had picked up yesterday. They're making good progress on that road. But there's been many times I do wish that I was post-mandated, or at least just had a dash cam so I could go to court and testify against these violators. I would do that. But then, you have our citizens coming to the transfer station with uncovered loads and unsecured loads. All the way there, they're depositing small amounts and sometimes even whole bags of garbage onto our roadways, and a lot of times they get ran over, and it just creates a larger problem. It's against Georgia state law to haul an unsecured or untarped load on our roadways. And the Marshals Bureau spent many hours writing tickets to violators entering the transfer station, and for a brief time we saw more tarp loads than ever before. And I do appreciate the job that Major LaHome and her staff have been doing supporting me in this effort, but they cannot be everywhere all the time. So when I hear people giving the marshals grief about litter, I think to myself, that there was a time, and I'll admit this, when I was young, I did indeed litter, but I always made sure there were no police behind me. so they didn't see me litter, But if they don't see you, we can't catch them, you know what I'm saying? We got to see them physically doing it. Now the City of Dallas, City of Hiram, and Paulding County Sheriff's Office have the authority and power to enforce the local, state, and local laws, litter laws, and I really stress, I hope that they will be doing that. But as Executive Director of Keep Paulding Beautiful, I constantly field calls from our citizens wanting to know what I'm going to do about keeping Paulding beautiful. And one of the calls that I hear crystal clear just happens to be from my wife, Donna. We could be driving to church, to Mount Tabor Park where we walk our dog, or heading to Walmart for what I call our Friday night date. And she sees the litter, and she asks me, Mr. Executive Director, what are you going to do about all this litter? And I, as many of you, are husbands, and we sometimes seek wise counsel from our spouses. And me being the man that I am, I told her if she could find a solution to the litter problem, that I'd take her to Crystal. And this time I'd let her get cheese. But not, litter is not a joke, Commander. And if we want to draw business to the county, we need to get our act cleaned up. And last year, the vice president of our board of Keep Paulding Beautiful, Nancy Hightower, is a retired educator. I have a fantastic board of people, volunteers. She taught 1,096 of our third graders in our public school system about environmental stewardship. And this presentation covers water conservation, water pollution, litter prevention, and just plain good old earth stewardship. And we're set to teach another round of students this year. We're going to try to get all of them one more time. But on May the 2nd, Keep Paulding Beautiful, we're going to host our annual Great American Cleanup. We're going to meet outside in front of this building, starting signing in our volunteers at 8:30 a.m. And we'll dispense throughout the county around 9 o'clock, cleaning as many roadways as possible. This event is open to churches, civic groups, businesses, homeowners, associations, and private citizens. And I believe we have over 142,000 plus people living in our county, and I just need about half of them to show up that day to accomplish our mission. We're going to have an online registration pretty soon. Mary Carol Sheffield, one of our board members from the extension, is going to setting that up for us, and you can register online so we can get out here as a team and solve this litter problem. And litter is never going to stop as long as people's attitudes remain the same. And I'm open for questions and comments. I hope you don't get up and slam me like I see online sometimes. So people want to cyberbully us and think we're not doing anything. But I'm the messenger, and I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. And if you want to join me to find a solution to the litter problem, let's talk later at a suitable venue. I'll even host a forum, and I'll feed you some good old pizza compliments of Keep Paulding Beautiful. We don't need to argue about it. Litter stinks. It's wrong. We need to work together to fight it. And I've got some great stats, and I know the sheriff's going to be sharing some with you, but this came from the Marshals Bureau. This is the calendar year, 2014 to 2015. They had illegal dumps, 61 cases. Trash 221 cases. Unsecured loads, 64 tickets. Illegal signs, 43. The unsecured loads are really bad. But I can say they can't be there all the time. When I change over to my new position as the landfill operations manager, we're going to put stress on that to all of our private haulers. We're going to give them the material, educate them on it, and let them know that they are in violation of that. We're going to stand out there, probably we'll try every person that comes through that landfill is going to get one of our litter prevention pamphlets that states about the covered load law, because it's very serious. And we know people have lost their lifestyle on roadways trying to get a mattress off of it, or pick up litter on major thoroughfares. But we also have we have other events during the Great American Cleanup. I've teamed with the city of Hiram the last 2 years for Electronics Recycling Day. And this year they have a code enforcement officer now in the city of Hiram, Clifford McCready. He's working with me, and we're trying to find a vendor for a shred day. Won't that be great that you'd be able to bring all kinds of your personal documents that you want securely destroyed? And we're gonna be doing that. And like I said, we're going to be get back in the schools with children. I have a lot of opportunities to speak to other groups many times throughout the year. And I try to be a good ambassador for the county and represent it well. And I always feel honored and privileged when I do get to speak to people about these issues. And one of the reasons we always concentrated on the third grade students is because they're like a sponge.
They are.
And they are brutally honest too. They will tell you, because we ask them, have you ever been going down the road and have you seen a car in front of you throw litter out? And they'll say, yeah, my mom does, my dad does. They rat them out and throw them under the bus. But like I said, my granddaughter, she convicts me on things like that. And we have to set a good example for our young people. But it's not just the young people that are, it's a host of people that are doing that. But we're going to work hard on it. I'm committed to it. I have been committed to it. We field so many calls down at the recycling center, and people, sometimes I have to put the phone out like this because I'm just getting chewed. And I had one person do that to me not too long ago, and she's joined our board now. So I was real glad, that instead of being on the sideline, that she wants to make a difference. And she's also a retired educator, so she's going to help our component as well. And the water department, our new director has known me, Erica, as a representative, and I thank you greatly for that. That it's like a pie. We try to fit the right pieces there, and she's going to be a great help to us as well.
Is your board completely filled now?
No, sir. We do still have post vacancies. We have a vacancy in each one of those, and it is the chairman's responsibility to make the nomination. What we do now is we have a period of time. Once the nomination's made, we like to get them to come to meetings. We want them to be there at least 90 days, 6 months, to make sure it's what they're interested in doing. Because many people want to be on a board, but they don't want to actually serve. They like having their name on the board, but we call that dead wood. And we don't have any dead wood right now. I have a fantastic group of people: retired educators, retired business people, real estate agents, county employees. We're represented well by the county and the city, especially the city of Dallas. They work really hard with us as well. But we're open to suggestions. We've got to get people to get out and help us do this. We just can't do it.
We're trying to get your boards filled. Any questions y'all have for?
What was that date on when you were going to meet out here?
It's going to be May the 2nd, and we'll start our registration. If you don't register online, we'll start registration at 8:30. We hope to leave around 9 o'clock and go out. And then we're going to come back around 12, and we're going to give away some good prizes and maybe some food or something. We're going to try to do that. And it's going to be a great event, and we hope to pick up a lot of trash. And we just
I may even be able to pick up a sponsor or something for that. So
yeah, that would be great. And I would really appreciate it if each post commissioner and chair would take a team out that day and represent our county as well.
We appreciate you for that, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Actually, this week, for some reason, myself and Gary Gullidge just talked about this. Tony Avery called me, and he was concerned, and he said, I'm willing to furnish the bags, and they come to find out today that y'all will furnish the bags.
Absolutely.
He was worried about me being old. He said, about one of them things.
We're going to offer the litter picker ups to people. They'll check them out. We'll put them in a safety vest. They'll get a safety briefing before we send them out. And several times we'll get young Cub Scouts and stuff like that. We'll put them on the Silver Comet Trail. somewhere where there's no traffic that they're exposed to. And Sergeant Thomas has, each year, he's provided me the white litter bags. Instead of using the black ones, the white helps them identify them in the road where they're at. And we know that it's actually the litter that we picked up. And my hat's off to Sergeant Thomas. He is not only a good brother and a good friend, but he's dedicated to what he does, and he takes it very seriously. And they cover a lot of area. And I think you're going to be impressed by the stats that Sheriff Golden is going to share with you this morning.
Sheriff, if you don't mind coming forward.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
In addition to fighting crime.
That's what I told somebody this morning. I said, I ran for sheriff and got elected. I think I ran for fire chief. All I do is put out fires now. I don't have time to be doing any law enforcement. I'm going to echo some of what Scott said, and Tommy also. Sergeant Thomas down in their inmate workforce, I don't know that I got any three that can outwork him. Everybody down there does a tremendous job, so I'd like to give them a kudos before I get a chance. They spend a lot of time. They save the county a lot of money. I talked to the city of Dallas and the city of Hiram. They both hired the state prisoners that come out. I think Dallas has hired 2 of their crews, and Hiram has hired 1 of them. And I think they pay them $39,500 a year for a crew. So we're running crews, and that's money that the county don't have to spend.
I think they actually have 3 in Dallas and one in Hiram.
I know they're spending a lot of money on it. We try to.
And when you say they hire them, you mean they're the probationers are having to do it as part of their community service, but you have to pay somebody to oversee them?
They come from the probation detention center where they're sentenced to stay there. So they're paying for the guard to come out and guard them, and I think they have to furnish them a vehicle and equipment that they use.
Okay.
I know in the cities they do some weed eating, do some mowing, cleaning up the right-of-ways. I don't know what all they do with them. I know there's a crew that does the sewer right-of-way in the city. I see them quite a bit. When I first got in there, the girls in jail decided that we wouldn't be fair because if our inmates come out and work, they get credit for time. We call it, they get extra credit for working instead of sitting in the jail cell. So they decided they'd sue us because we wouldn't allow them to earn the credit. So I bought them some black and white striped suits, and we have a female crew that comes out and work, and men. Of course, you have to keep them separated. The girls come out and they do a lot of cleaning in the community. They clean the courthouse. Of course, we clean our offices with it. We clean the health department with it. They spend a lot of time doing a lot of work for the county that's pretty much, lack of a better word, it's just grunting work that nobody really wants to do. You probably couldn't hire somebody if you advertised and paid them to do it. So we spend a lot of time cleaning up stuff. I talked to Keith and told him, I says, and we spend a lot of time counting numbers because we have to, I always tell everybody, if we don't tell you what we're doing, you don't think we're doing anything. I get a lot of complaints on my Facebook page, which seems to have turned into let's complain to the sheriff instead of things for fun. So I had a lady that sent me one and she said, I don't live there anymore, but I come down and drove through the county and the county looks awful and I don't know why you don't get those inmates out of jail and put them out there picking up trash. So I told her, I said, we do, and we got a little banner back and forth. She said, well, I thought you'd take it constructive. I said, well, I did, but I'm telling you that we're actually doing what you're asking me to do. And I did like Tommy said, we've got an adopt a mile program in this county. If you'd like to participate, we'd love to have you. I heard of people. You know, they usually get quiet when you offer them some work. But I've got numbers from April 2014 through February of this year. There's a lot of roads in this county. I think Scott can correct me. I think we've probably got, 900 miles of county road, Scott?
Almost 990.
990. There's a lot of highway, and that's don't even include the state roads. I think it's 1,100 or 1,200 if you included all of it. We spend 142 days picking up trash. I get a lot of grief from people. It's like, well, it don't matter if it's cold and it don't matter if it's raining. Put up the prisoners out there anyway that would be picking up trash. Well, I'm required to also keep them safe and take care of them. The biggest thing about, just like today, there's really no problem putting in a raincoat picking up trash in the rain. But the van we haul them in, you have to pull off on the side of the road, you stay stuck. You make ditches on the side of the road, you track mud out in the highway. It's just not feasible to do. You wind up sliding off banks and tearing up vehicles. It's just not worth it. So we can only work them when it's decent weather. We spent 394 and a half hours in this time period picking up trash with inmate crews. We picked up 450 and a half miles of roadway, which is about half the roads in the county. And like Tommy said, we can go do a road, we just did Ivy Village this morning, and we can go drive through there right now, they'll already be chunking it in roads. We keep up with the number of bags that we tie, and we'll send an inmate with the DOT crew, and we'll go out and pick up the bags and carry the landfill. We picked up 3,024 bags in this time period. That's a bunch of garbage that we're picking up that, in addition to the way they look now, I don't know what they look like if we left this land out there with it. I'm old like some of y'all, so we grew up with it, and we all got a little education on this. I don't see anybody doing really anything, but we all remember the Indian on TV standing there with a tear running down his eyes looking at the trash in the water. Give a hoot, don't pollute, the little owl thing. But I don't see anything like that now, so I think Tommy may be hitting on something that educating these people might be a good way to start. I've been a cop here 25 years. That's what I was thinking. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody just actually throw garbage out the window while I'm behind them in a police car. I know they're doing it, they're just not doing it when the cops are behind them. So, I don't know as far as a law enforcement thing. I tell all our guys, if you see them littering, write them a ticket, but you don't have to tell them that. They're not going to do it when the cops are behind them. So, I don't know what the answer card is for that. A lot of people, and we keep a jail full of people, and we can only take out certain people to do trash pickup and to go out and work in the communities. These people, I won't say that you have to trust them, but you got to give them a little bit, and more than that, they can't be a danger to the community. Some of these people, and sometimes they get stupid and running. So you have to be real careful who you let out. We'll only let somebody as either have a medium or low classification in the jail. If you got a high classification, they don't go out and work. They got to have a bond of less than $10,000. And a lot of people think because they're in jail, I can make them go to work. Well, it's illegal. I can't make them go to work. They have to agree to do this. So unless they've been state sentenced, and the state can sentence them to it. Until they've been sentenced, they have a right not to. So if they want to lay in the cell and eat and sleep, they can, and we can't do anything about it. We won't allow anybody with aggravated assault or aggravated battery or any felony, obstruction, or domestic violence cases to go out and work. No misdemeanor obstruction or attempted to lose. If they run from us before, we don't trust them to go out and do a work detail because they're going to run again. We don't do parole violations, and they must be cleared by medical staff, and they must pass the drug test. So that's some of the requirements to get them out. All of them in our jail, of course, does not meet this. I was telling you the places that our inmates work doing cleaning. They work in the 911 center, they work at animal control, they work at the DOT science shop. We work with the DOT picking up trash on the side of the road after it's been picked up. We have inmates that work at the landfill, the recycling center, Albany County Fire Department. They go to the fire station, fire stations. We work at fleet maintenance, helping them out. Pretty much we just keep the shop clean for them. They're not allowed to do perform any mechanic work. Parks and Recs are always need people in the summertime. When we got enough, we try to make sure Parks and Recs has people to go out and help with weed eating stuff. We don't never have enough inmates to go around. And also, like I told you earlier, the females clean the judge's chamber, the female in the courthouse. But inside the courthouse, we keep a deputy right with them the whole time. We don't allow them to go through the courthouse. And I challenge everybody, if I don't like it any better than anybody else does. I own 900 foot of right of way on the road I live on, so I pick up about two garbage bags a week.
And you know.
Being the sheriff and having a speed limit sign in your yard is like a joke and a target for every beer bottle in the county. So I pick up more than my share out of my own yard. If there's anything you think of that we can do to help, I'm all ears. I'm willing to do anything to make this county. This is our home. I agree, it don't look good on the sides of roads, and I've been paying a lot of attention to it since I've been hearing these complaints. I guess we get tunnel vision. We ride down the road and don't pay attention to what's going on. But it's our home. We're bringing people here wanting to come here. If it looks like a garbage dump, I don't know what we're going to invite somebody to come live in the middle of the garbage dump. So anything we can do or my office can do, we're more than willing to help.
Thank you.
If you pack heat,
Do what?
if you're packing heat, do we have the sheriff's permission to shoot out tires?
Never.
Just want to square that. Seriously, I know Chairman Austin and probably all the commissioners up here believe in maximum fines, but again, as has been mentioned, you got to catch somebody first. But with the numbers that have been given out, do we catch anybody?
I used to think about that a while ago. I should have pulled up our tickets to see how many litter tickets we wrote in the year. I did not pull that up, so I don't know.
In our court system, once, and Leanne, if you'll make your way up to the lectern and answer a couple questions, are we seeing them be prosecuted from what you've seen in the courts once tickets are written?
I never go to probate court, so I don't know the deputy who writes a ticket or the officer who writes a ticket would be the one that goes into court. So unless you're standing there all day watching the cases go through, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Easy to find out.
If you don't mind getting us those numbers, that'd be great.
That's easy.
And we'll have another meeting in a week, so.
Yeah. I have a feeling the numbers are going to be extremely low because, like I said, when you're behind them in a car with lights on it and sheriff or marshal or police right on the side of it, they ain't going to chuck it out in front of you. They're going to wait till you're not behind them. Like Tommy said, I know I'm guilty myself. I've done it. Look around. Don't do it anymore, but I've been guilty of it as anybody else does. I used to be real good at lobbing Coke bottles over the truck and hitting signs and thought it was cute, but you know, it's not cute because somebody's got to pick up your garbage. Break a leg.
Most of the stuff that we do is very, of course, reactive. It's what they throw out. So we'll get the calls from citizens about the illegal dumpings. We'll go out, as nasty as it is, we'll go through it. We'll see what we can find. We find somebody. There are state laws that say if you find the information in there that they can be prosecuted. And we do issue citations on those that go to probate court, which is Judge Anderson, and she's fantastic about enforcing those. Those are high fines. They can be up to $1,000 on those. And so it's the discretion of what she does with it. Sometimes we don't always issue a citation on it. Sometimes we make them go clean up. A lot of times they'll go to dump sites that have had other garbage put out there. Well, if we find one with a name in it, we make them clean up that whole area. We're not sure if the rest of that's theirs or not, but they dumped it with the rest of them, and we can only assume it's the same. And they normally pick it up to avoid getting that citation, and so that helps a little bit. We also get a lot of calls where people have litter on their own property. They're not cleaning up their own houses. That is citations and ordinance violations, so those go through magistrate court. And those fines start at $300 on the first offense. Second offense is $500, and third offense is $1,000, and they have to appear in court. So again, we'll work with those folks. That's their own house. To be honest with you, a lot of it is junk vehicle. You know, not having a tag on a vehicle is considered under the litter ordinance. A lot of those folks we work with, a lot of them have been around plotting years and years and have had it for years and years. So we'll work with them to get that picked up, and usually they do. So we try to avoid citations on the ordinance side, which is their own home. But on the illegal dumping ones, if we don't get them to clean up a large area or all of it, then we definitely issue those through probate court. Excuse me.
Any questions?
I would like to say that I know, Mr. Chairman, when you ran in 08, that was one of the things that was on your heart and mine was litter, because you and I talked about it plenty of time. We agree on that issue. And Scott, I take every 4 to 6 weeks and take care of a mile of my road. You and I have discussed that. And that'll for sure keep your kids from doing it when they're older, because my kids know what it's like. Pick up 4 and 5 55-gallon drums full of trash every 4 to 6 weeks on a mile of road. And so I appreciate Tommy and Gary, Leanne. I appreciate all of our employees and what they do to work on our litter problem. But we've said it before, Mr. Chairman, that it's something you and I agree on. That, and I know you pick up your road, and I pick up mine. And if we don't get our citizens out there to do it, we're not going to be, we can spend all the money we want to spend, but we're not going to be able to do it without the help of our citizens. And when you go to a function that Tommy has and you don't see a lot of people show up, it's disheartening. And so we can talk about it, but we've got to quit talking about it. We've got to go out there and work together to pick up the roads. And I know Mr. Austin drives by mine and make sure I've taken care of mine. And I drive by his and make sure he's taking care of his. And, but anyway, working together we can do it, but we can put everything we want to in place And unless we get the citizens that are gonna roll up their sleeves and take care of their property and 10 more around them, pick a quarter mile, pick a half mile, but we've gotta work together to do it. But you get your kids out there doing it, I can tell you when they're older, mine have sworn, they will not, Daddy, I will not ever do this, and why do these people drink and throw this out the window? Why is there cigarettes and lotto tickets? And but I appreciate everything y'all do, and hopefully we can, again, try to resolve this problem, because that's what we need to do, to get people to want to move into our county. Thank you.
And I can't reiterate enough how much, like as a group, as far as the sheriff's department, DOT, Tommy, it takes a group effort to do, because when somebody dumps out, their sofa that they don't want anymore, or their mattress on the side of the road, we can't find anything off of that. Well, DOT has to go pick it up, so it takes a lot of different departments to have to work and do that. And we've come up with lots of ideas with Tommy and things we're going to do with him being up at the transfer station now, but it takes time. We feel like we got to educate folks before we can start really dinging them up there on the uncovered loads. But
I remember seeing a recliner on top of the bridge right by Wendell Road. It was there a couple of days before we got it. I have to believe somebody didn't just push that off. It fell off, but it's unsecured. And so that's a ticket if we can catch them doing it.
And those are the county, well, there's state law on that too, but also ordinances. So it just depends on if you can catch them compared to if we're doing it reactive.
At one time, and I don't know what the latest statistic, we were kind of used for a dump site for used tires. Is that slacked off some?
Well, the state had a pretty big program at one point. I'm not quite sure where they're at with it. We can't really get in touch with anybody too much on it. There's specifics, like a certain tire tread, and they're labeled, and you have to have a manifest to transfer them. It's a little bit detailed. They had somebody that used to do it, and we haven't really heard from them much anymore, but that's a problem too, the tires that are left in the county.
If they can find a spot where they can just unload real quickly and get gone. But there's a way of tracking those tires.
There is, the state usually does it, but it's a little complicated. It takes some time.
Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. We may have beaten this horse to death, which is exactly what I wanted to do. It's a horrible problem. If realtors are showing houses, commercials look at and come here, and they say it nasty, and probably the best spot in the world that I've ever seen that does the best job in the world is Asheville, North Carolina. They just absolutely do a fantastic job. So I'll try to reach out to them and see what they do differently and what they can do. But if you've never been with Tommy Leonard and heard him speak to a group of third graders, he absolutely charms them to death. And they do about anything he asks them to do. So great job, Tommy. Thank you. Public participation on the agenda items. We have no one interested to speak. Consent agenda. We have one item. Number one, approve and accept the following streets for perpetual maintenance by the county: Forest Hill Phase 2, Spring Forest Lane, Timberland Trace Way, Timberland Trace Court. Would anybody like to move this to a regular session? Hearing none, there's no old business. Under new business, discuss action to adopt resolution 15-08, authorizing the filing of an application with the Georgia Department of Transportation and the Georgia Department of Transportation for grant for public transportation assistance under section 5311 of the Federal Transit Laws under chapter 53, title 49, United States Code. Could you have made this any more difficult to read?
Sorry, I blame that on the state. Or the federal, it is a federal grant. But this is an annual process. As you know, we get a grant each year to fund our transit buses that come out of the senior center. And it operates, not only do they transport seniors, but they transport handicap, and it's open to any citizen that wants to use the transit buses. They can call, and you have to get us on the schedule. And they pretty much do that at least 24 hours in advance. And if it fills up, then they can't transport you. But they have 5 buses.
This grant is in, the total operations for this is this year being requested at $320,700. There's a fair revenue of which we don't charge. The county pays that of 10%, and then the remaining amount is split between the federal and the county. So this local portion of this grant is $144,315. That's up a little bit from last year, and it's not approved yet, so it may be that or a little bit less.
Do those numbers come in to us, this program that Northwest Georgia Regional Commission oversees, or?
This is not the program that the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission, that's our Meals on Wheels. They have 3 different programs. This one is operated solely out of the senior center, and you call in and you schedule a transport, and it may be for purposes such as medical, it could be shopping, it can be education. There are several different reasons that they will come and pick you up and take you where you need to be.
I've seen a bus, Lookout Mountain bus.
That's not the same program.
It's a different program.
It's a different program.
Okay. So what is, you know what they do?
I believe those are the Meals on Wheels buses.
Okay. Any more discussion with Tabitha?
I was talking to Tabitha yesterday. I think we've done this, did you say 28 years?
The application says this will be application number 28.
28 years, and I think it's a great program.
Good. I know going to the senior center, they love what we do, and I know there's volunteers like Steve Turner that helps raise money and have events for them, and they're really excited, and they let me know if anybody misses them for one of their appointments, believe me. Number 2, discuss action to adopt resolution 15-09, amending the development regulations for Paulding County, Georgia, amending Article 10 regarding floodplain management, flood damage prevention ordinance, and limited.
Good morning, Commissioners. This ordinance is mandated by here's another mouthful, the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District that Paulding County is a member of. This, along with 5 other ordinances, were required to be adopted. This one was initially adopted in 2001 and then amended twice in 2005. So this is the 3rd amendment. This revisions came about when the Federal Emergency Management started looking at some of Georgia's floodplain ordinances and found that it was a little bit out of compliance with federal terminology. So the Water Planning District came up with a new ordinance in late 2013. The main changes, I've outlined them in the agenda. A lot of them are definitions. Most of them are terminology, and like I mentioned, it's to bring them in compliance with federal terminology. Corrected some typographical errors and things like that, and I have updated the ordinance to match our code of ordinances, and staff recommends its approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Any questions? Thank you very much. That's the conclusion of a regular business session. There's no executive session. Opposed participation on non-agenda items. We have Kathy Helms, intergovernmental agreement with the airport authority. Ms. Helms, you have 5 minutes if you'll address your comments to the chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I and others have been here before you and before the Board of Commissioners numerous times during the last 18 months, always asking you to do the right thing. Let me say this another way. It's not about winning or losing. It's about doing what's right, not pushing through grandiose schemes. I hope my presentation earlier, you took heed of the items mentioned, one of which pointed out the unnecessary exposure to the county for litigation because of the intergovernmental agreement. The Board of Commissioners holds the purse strings for the Paulding County Airport Authority and the Industrial Building Authority. They cannot exist without taxpayer money and approval from the Board of Commissioners to distribute those funds. Giving complete control of the airport to an unelected authority, leaving taxpayers even more at risk should this grand idea fail, is irresponsible. A lame-duck commission doing what it can to prevent future commissions from protecting taxpayers, which have clearly voted against funding, building, and utilizing an airport in any capacity. is an overreach of yours and their elected duties. You have minimized the responsibility of these and future elected officials to protect taxpayers by approving that intergovernmental agreement. The intergovernmental agreement was written pro bono by the bond attorney. I'm trying to understand why you would reach out to him for the business of the county. We appear to have a plethora of attorneys representing the county at all levels of government. In fact, the same firm represents the Board of Commissioners, the Paulding County Airport Authority, the Industrial Building Authority, the Board of Education, and the Chamber of Commerce. Were none of them capable of drafting this IGA? Study after study, including a Georgia DOT study in 2011, an MIT study in 2013, and the latest Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, indicate there is little benefit to building a commercial airport today. The cost far exceeds the return on investment, as evidenced by the ever-growing cost to the taxpayer since construction began on this airport in 2004. Jobs in aviation-related fields are declining and are expected to slip even further through 2022. I will again remind you that the runway was not originally built to specifications. In fact, it cost nearly $2 million more to bring it to the original design. The person that was responsible for building the specs is and always has been the same, the airport director. I also want to again mention the failed film studio that's now for sale. The same person that has overseen the failed General Aviation Airport is also responsible for oversight of the film studio. Like the commercialization of the airport, you and others were convinced the studio would bring thousands of jobs and a huge benefit to our local economy. That hasn't happened. It is not the job of the county to continue to funnel money into failed projects, hoping somehow to make it work. The taxpayers deserve better, and instead of hiring competent people to ensure those projects have some ability to at least maintain cost, you transfer a $50+ million project asset to that person, give him a raise, and further distance elected officials from the checks and balances necessary to protect the taxpayers. The overreach by unelected authorities has cost the taxpayers millions. They should not be rewarded. They should be dissolved. You must rescind, modify, tear up, throw away, whatever it takes to get rid of this atrocity, the intergovernmental agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Paulding County Airport Authority. Thank you.
Kirsten Liberty, Airport.
Good morning. Sometime in the early 70s, the city of Atlanta purchased thousands of acres of property around the state of Georgia in anticipation of expanding air service to other locations, in the event there would not be adequate land available at the current location of Hartsfield Airport. In 1972, through an act of the Georgia legislature, the Paulding County Airport Authority was formed. The citizens of Paulding County wanted input, participation, and some control as to what type of air service may or may not be needed in the future for Paulding County, and therefore requested our legislators pass this act. When it was announced the city of Atlanta might consider the Paulding location, the citizens rose up, spoke out, and made it be known they did not want an airport in Paulding County. They even loaded up school buses headed for the Capitol to firmly show the rejection of an airport in Paulding County. Some of the family members of those here today were instrumental in preventing Atlanta from considering Paulding County at that time. In fact, it was put on a referendum for the citizens to vote on sometime around 1975 and was soundly defeated in that election cycle. Sometime around 1989, there was again talk of Paulding building an airport. Our elected officials again turned to the taxpayers to see if they would approve bonds for construction of an airport. It was also soundly defeated. Some claim they voted against the bonds, not the airport. We haven't found one person that admits they only voted against the bonds. They voted against the airport, period. It was built anyway against the wishes of the voters. The chairman of the airport authority made a promise a covenant, a pledge to the citizens of Paulding County it would never, ever have commercial airliners. What does that mean? Not right now, not if the economy tanks, not because someone once again has a really stupid idea to turn our airport into a commercial hub. Never, ever can't be misinterpreted. It means what it says. In the past 18 months, we have heard on many occasions, I inherited this airport and promised to do whatever was necessary to provide jobs. At what cost? When does the covenant pledged to the citizens become null and void because of your inheritance? Before the contracts with Propeller, before the decision to turn this airport commercial, before some pie in the sky dream of $1 million more a year from the FAA, the covenant to the people existed. It should have taken priority. You said it did in your campaign when you ran for commission chair in 2008. As people rose up, spoke out, begged you to honor that covenant, we were ignored. We've been bullied, intimidated, and minimized. What about that covenant to us? Why did our commissions before you bring the airport issue before the people, and you feel you didn't even have to put it on a referendum? Is your agenda and that of the PCAA more important than the voters? And for your grand finale, with a lame duck commission, you have a bond attorney create an intergovernmental agreement that takes what little input the citizens may have completely off the table and hand over the airport, lock, stock, and barrel to an unelected authority still being run by the same chairman that promised us it would never, ever be commercial. Mr. Chairman, you also inherited the covenant of never, ever will there be airliners. I request you insist the PCAA honor that covenant along with you and the rest of the BOC. In 2008, you campaigned against your opponent for building an airport that the citizens didn't want. You also said your opponent wasn't listening to the voters. Are you listening now? In 2012, you and the PCAA were already in negotiations with Propeller about commercialization of the airport. I do not recall during your campaign your mention of that or any promised jobs at the airport. Don't you think voters should have known you were in fact considering commercial service at the airport before the election? The IGA was created solely to circumvent the incoming commissioners that were elected on anti-commercialization platforms. They won the election by listening to the people, by talking to them at their homes, the grocery stores, their churches. The IGA puts the entire BOC and county at risk with no input from the people. You want the BOC to remain a sponsor, to obtain funding from the FAA, but you want to eliminate all oversight by the BOC. I implore you and the rest of the commissioners to rescind the IGA and return control of the airport authority back to the people through our elected officials. Thank you.
Bacalini. Am I saying that correctly?
Bacalini. Bacalini.
Bacalini.
Good morning, Chairman and other commissioners. I will be brief. Upon review of the IBA and AA financial statements brought to mind, there's $39 million of assets listed on those two P&Ls. But during the meeting, when Ellis asked a number of questions to Mr. Swafford, we got a song, a dance, a sidestep, which in my mind is nothing more than trying to hide the real truth. Why does it show on the combined statements? Why is the airport statement not show the combined old and new after they received their own autonomy? Why does the IBA list assets in excess of $250,000 on their asset list that are not their assets any longer? I respectfully request, especially you, Chairman Mr. Austin, since you are on both of those committees, that we have an audit, not just a county audit, but an outside audit done by parties that have no dog in the fight. Thank you very much.
Chris Tyree.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
And Ms. Skipper. Today I would like to follow up on something that was discussed at the last board meeting, and that is contracts and covenants. I, along with my fellow residents, appreciate your consensus that this very important issue deserves to be acknowledged, respected, and most importantly, honored. Yet at the same time, I believe we're all aware that many such promises and agreements have not been kept, most recently and in the past, which brings me to my point. Last month, Blake Swafford publicized at the Airport Authority meeting that he has permitted Brett Smith of Silver Comet Terminal Partners to breach the bond agreement that Smith entered into with the Airport Authority on October 7, 2013. This contract stipulates Silver Comet Terminal Partners will pay the bond payments on the taxpayer-backed $3.6 million bonds to expand the taxiways. According to the contract, Smith's company will make the bond payments until such time that the $3.6 million is reimbursed by the FAA. By doing so, the Paulding County taxpayers are relieved of this additional tax burden. The contract also specifies that Smith's company is obligated to put $500,000 into a segregated escrow account as security for the bond payments. This is by far one of the most poorly written contracts we've ever seen, which was clearly designed for Smith's benefit through all the leniency and contradictions, most notably that the bond payments are to be made from the unrenewable escrow account. However, it does indeed state his $500,000 is to be put into escrow, which has never been done. And although Silver Comet has made the first bond payment of $403,000, by not meeting his legal obligation, what should be the remaining $97,000 escrow balance is non-existent. Therefore, the citizens are left with zero security that future bond payments will be made by Silver Comet. Regardless of the recently made bond payment, Silver Comet is still obligated to fulfill the $500,000 escrow since the escrow account was never established. Mr. Swafford's justification for not pushing Smith to pay the escrow is because Smith paid for the Airport Authority's aviation attorney to represent them during the FAA settlement. And exactly what does that have to do with him not having to honor the escrow agreement? Nothing in the contract says Silver Comet can offset the escrow payment against legal fees that they incur. One would think both Swafford and Smith would walk the straight and narrow since they're under such immense scrutiny. Clearly, Blake is working for Brett Smith and not the county to have approved this breach. Mr. Swafford is more than welcome and has our blessing to resign and officially work for Silver Comet so they can pay his salary, not Paulding taxpayers. And Mr. Austin, at the last board meeting, you professed to have made a covenant with the people of Paulding County in 2008 to do everything you could to bring opportunity to Paulding. And you've done your best to keep your word. However, little did we know what all that meant. At the November 2013 Chamber Breakfast, Brett Smith revealed what you said regarding commercialization and your constituents. You told him that if people don't like it, they don't have to vote for you. Mr. Austin, you never informed the public that you were negotiating with Propeller Investments to commercialize our airport during your 2012 campaign. Your constituents were deceived, kept in the dark, and robbed of information that may have resulted in a very different election outcome. What happened to the covenants that you made with the residents back in '08 when you promised transparency and opposed the airport? You continue to say you inherited the airport and need to make it successful, when the reality is you've chosen to ignore the residents and throw good money after the bad by expanding it instead of keeping your campaign covenants. And Mr. Carmichael, you also ran for Post 1 Commissioner in 2012, fully aware of the commercialization plans, since at that time you were an Airport Authority board member. Yet you also failed to inform your constituents of the contracts that had been entered into with Propeller Investments. Mr. Austin and Mr. Carmichael, you are also welcome to resign and go to work for Brett Smith. The taxpayers are tired of paying our leaders to work against us instead of for us. Thank you.
Calvin Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish I'd have been first on this list, but I ended up being last, because I know I've become a disliked person in this county. But let me just say this. It's been a blessing for what we've accomplished up here at Paulding County, and it's nothing but a blessing. And when you go out of prayer into it, I mean, God does act, and He does do what He says He's going to do. And I'm probably the most blessed man in this room today. Blessed with a beautiful wife and family, blessed with a wonderful business, blessed with a wonderful son-in-law who runs my business, and a daughter. And I'm just a really blessed man, and I'm blessed to be able to come up here today just and explain to you guys what changed, why I had to make a change. And I want to congratulate you, Vernon, for your change in heart the other day. I just appreciate that so much. But when we first opened this airport, corporate aviation was huge. It was big. And you know, it was a task to get out here and get all these people coming in here. By the way, the people have been fighting us when they even knew corporate planes were coming in there. They've been fighting us since the very beginning of the day we opened this airport, whether it be corporate or whatever. But anyway, even Dave Carmichael could tell you that the state sold their corporate airplanes because that's the way it was going. And we can't hold a gun to people's head and say, you're going to come in here and open up a business. So, I'm a little bit nervous this morning because, you know, I can feel the heat here today, and I'm sorry for that. But I want to honor God and everything. And y'all are a blessing, too, to give up y'all's time and life and experience. And just hope God use y'all in a mighty way to grow jobs and grow this county. But, with that being said, when I investigated what a 139 could mean to us, not to take people out of this county, but to bring them into this county, bring executives, because all corporate companies now are flying their executives on airlines. They're not putting them on corporate planes. And then the capital money that we could get for the investment in the airport, $1 million a year, that's rolled in stone. There's no question about it. But where it does not become a burden, because this money that we got for building this airport came from the FAA, which that's people on airplanes and people buy airline tickets. It didn't come from the citizens. Just a mere part of it did. And now we're burdened here to keep it, make it viable. So what do? We don't have corporate. We don't have commercial. We've been fought off for 2 years to grow this thing. It's cost the taxpayers a lot of money to fight this thing. And I just want y'all to know that I'm still in for the fight. We're going to do what we can to make this thing viable for my kids, y'all's kids, our grandkids, to create jobs. And that's the whole goal and the whole thing. We're not out here. I'm a grain contractor. And I wanted to bid this job, but because of, you know, I knew there'd be a lot of terror come out of that, I did not bid it. And I wanted to build hangars. I didn't build hangars because I knew that people would think I was patting my pocket. This is the only thing we get paid for 14 years of serving this county is a bottle of water. So, with that being said, I just want y'all to know I serve with a great bunch of guys. Blake Swafford is a wonderful, wonderful man for this county. Give him the credit where it's due. He's an engineer. He's not a politician. He doesn't know how to get up here and lean himself and air himself out. He's just a technical kind of guy. But anyway, he's a great guy. And then Brett Smith, bless this young man's heart, why in the world he's hung in here with us and did everything he said he was going to do is beyond me for the persecution he got. But anyway, excuse me about being nervous up here because I know that there's a lot of people in here that do not like me, and that's okay. But I'm doing this for the posterity of this county, and that's it. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.